just moments ago, where he's facing a mountain of charges from attempted murder to residential burglary to assault to elder abuse after allegedly breaking into the Pelosi home and hammering Paul in the head. San Francisco isn't letting our cameras into the courtroom for some reason, so that's not a good sign. DePape, 42 years old, is pleading not guilty. That's according to the public defender representing him, Adam Lipson, who just met with DePape for the very first time last night.
We have very little information about this case at this time. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumor, simply based on the nature of this case. But as of right now, I haven't even seen the police reports. I met my client last night for a brief meeting for the first time.
This public defender hasn't even seen the police reports yet, so he knows as much as we do. But Adam's already planning on going with the insanity defense here.
We're going to be doing a comprehensive investigation of what happened. We're going to be looking into Mr. DePape, his mental state.
Oh, DePape. Is that the name? Now, the district attorney, Brooke Jenkins, is holding DePape on no bail. Finally, someone in San Francisco gets held with no bail. She's saying DePape's a danger to the public.
Absolutely, I consider him to be dangerous. Not only is this someone who engaged in a pre-planned attack on the speaker in her home, but someone who was willing to enact violence that was politically motivated. And so, yes, we certainly view him as a public safety risk.
But the DA's biggest concern isn't the thousands of other dangerous, mentally ill, drug-addicted ex-cons. She's worried that there's too much misinformation out there.
I think what's clear is that this case is vulnerable to misinformation. We are seeing it spread across all platforms at this point. We need to make sure that the record is clear what happened in this situation for all parties.
Oh, no, not attempted murder, misinformation. That's the problem. San Francisco was responsible for the misinformation. They gave this sloppy press conference where nobody could tell us how many hammers there were, remember? And led everybody to believe that a third party opened up the door to police. We have a lot of basic questions about this case that San Francisco officials won't answer. Like, why didn't the alarm go off when DePape allegedly broke in? We're talking about the home of the Speaker of the House here. Not only is San Francisco experiencing a crime wave, but what if a Chinese agent broke in and bugged the place? This house is so exposed. You could just break into the house of the person who's third in line to the presidency? It's that easy? Do the Pelosi's even have an alarm system?
So whether or not they had an alarm is still a part of this investigation. We have to make sure that what we release to the public is what we believe is necessary in order just to straighten out this record and what we believe the public should have access to. But it's not going to be every single detail of this case because that is not something we would ordinarily do in any other case.
You either see the alarm system in the house or you don't. That takes about 30 seconds, lady. And they caught the perp red-handed. He's behind bars with no bail, and there's a mountain of evidence and eyewitness testimony that he smashed Paul's head in with a hammer. And the DA thinks she needs to hold back key details from the public? It's not like Hammerman's still out and he's watching the news from his little hideout, and police don't want to tip off the investigation. Does anybody really believe the Pelosi's don't have an alarm system in their home? One of Pelosi's former neighbors tells the Daily Mail that everybody in the neighborhood has alarms on the windows, and if the glass was ever smashed, an alarm went off. This neighbor even remembers fleets of black SUVs circling the Pelosi mansion 24/7. She says they even had monitoring devices that would scramble electronics nearby. This was a highly secured house. And this guy shows up to the house, smashes through Pelosi's back door, and it doesn't trigger anything. And according to the FBI affidavit, the only witness was a private security officer working nearby at a neighbor's house. The complaint says the witness saw a sketchy individual dressed in all black with a large bag on his back creeping near the Pelosi house. And then he heard what sounded like banging and then sirens within a minute. First of all, that timeline doesn't make any sense. And second of all, why didn't he call the cops if he saw a guy clad in all black with a backpack circling the Speaker's house in the middle of the night. But Paul Pelosi, who did call the cops, referred to him as a friend, according to the police scanner activity. Now, that may be Paul speaking in code, but we'd like to hear the 911 call. But the DA says she's not going to release that.
With respect to the 911 call, no, that's not something we're going to release to the public. We are going to make a choice of whether or not it's something that should be played during the course of his preliminary hearing and, of course, a later trial, but that's when that would be made available.
San Francisco officials say in order to get DePape's criminal history, Primetime has to fill out a bunch of paperwork by hand and drop it off in person. Plus, how is it that we don't have a mugshot by now? We know he was an illegal alien from Canada, and we know he's been convicted of a slew of felonies. The police chief announced it on camera. So why are they hiding this? How bad is this guy's rap sheet? I mean, obviously, he should have been deported, and if he was, Paul Pelosi wouldn't be in the hospital. His stepchildren say DePape molested them when they were little. And DePape's ex say they filed a police report, but San Francisco screwed the case up and never charged him. Way to go, San Francisco. This guy should have been deported or in prison for child rape instead of preying on Paul. And here's what his neighbors thought of him.
They are just, nudist drug abusers, and that's who gravitates toward them.
What do you say their politics are?
I'm not sure. I would imagine that they're more left-leaning. Nothing that they believe in aligns with their actions. So they'll say that they are, pro-Black lives, and then they'll call the police on Black people.
We think he's the father of some of them? Or do we?
Not sure at all, but if he is, their mom told me that there was abusive nature in their father. So if it is him, then he has abused his own children.
All right, so he was a pedophile, allegedly, psychotic drug addict who fried his brain on psychedelics. He was stuffing so much Ibogaine down his throat, he was fantasizing about his fairy friends. He thought he was Jesus, living in a fairy house. So besides being deported and in prison, he also should have been in a straitjacket in an insane asylum. Do you know any idea how much money San Francisco spends each year on homelessness, on drug addiction, on mental illness? Billions. Or you could have just deported him and saved us all a ton of money. How the hell did this guy get anywhere near the Pelosi home? California Governor Gavin Newsom has to answer for all of this. But Newsom hasn't really cared for a while.
People are talking about crime rates in Los Angeles, the type of crime that's happening. Yeah. Many LAPD officers feel frustrated in the way that things are being done above their heads.
Be addressed much more forcefully.
He never addressed it, though, did he? Does Gavin Newsom care now? Remember, Paul Pelosi and Newsom are relatives. Paul's brother married Newsom's aunt. So you can only imagine how awkward it's going to get at Thanksgiving. No wonder Gavin's pointing fingers. This is all on his plate. And his plate's full.